The crystalline viewport of the Sovereign's wrath stretched across half the command deck, displaying the blue marble that was Earth in all its deceptive tranquility. Fleet Commander Verk stood with his 4 arms clasped behind his back, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the ship's bioluminescent panels. Around him, 300 warships of the Zalthari Imperial Armada held formation, the largest invasion force assembled in 2 centuries. "Primitive world," muttered Subcommander Thrain, his mandibles clicking with disdain. "Our intelligence shows no orbital defense platforms, no energy shields, no warp-capable vessels. They still use chemical propulsion." Verk's compound eyes reflected the planet below, but something gnawed at his tactical mind. In his 40 cycles of service, he'd learned that easy conquests often carried hidden costs. The Zalthari Empire had expanded across 17 star systems through overwhelming force and superior technology. Earth should have been no different. Yet it was different. 3 months ago, the Empire had sent the exploration vessel Seeker of Truths to conduct reconnaissance. It never returned. Then the diplomatic envoy Harmonic Dawn approached Earth's moon to deliver the standard ultimatum: surrender or face annihilation. The ship's last transmission was a garbled scream, then silence. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission," reported the communications officer. "Audio only, Terran common language." "Play it." A female voice filled the command deck, calm, almost conversational. "Attention Zalthari Fleet. This is Dr. Elsa Moravec, Director of Earth's Planetary Defense Initiative. You are ordered to retreat beyond the heliopause within the next 60 seconds, or we will interpret your presence as an act of war." Laughter rippled through the bridge. Verk remained silent. 60 seconds. Thrain's translator rendered his amusement. "They give us an ultimatum. Commander, permission to demonstrate our firepower on their lunar installations." Verk raised one clawed hand. "Dr. Moravec," he transmitted back, "I am Fleet Commander Verk of the Zalthari Imperial Armada. You face 300 capital ships, each capable of glassing your entire planet. Your surrender will be accepted only once. Choose wisely." There was a pause. Then Elsa's voice returned, and Verk detected something in her tone he'd never heard from a prey species before: pity. "Commander Verk, I don't think you understand. We're not asking you to surrender. We're asking you to leave. There's a difference." 45 seconds remaining, she added. Thrain's carapace flushed an angry crimson. "Commander, this is an insult to the Empire. We should." "Scan the planet," Verk interrupted. "Full spectrum, everything." The sensor officer's antennae twitched nervously. "Sir, we've already conducted multiple." "Do it again. Look for anything unusual. Energy signatures we might have missed, subspace distortions, quantum fluctuations, anything." As the sensors swept across Earth, Verk studied the data streaming across holographic displays. The planet appeared exactly as reported: technologically adolescent, militarily insignificant, strategically vulnerable. 9 billion humans scattered across 7 continents, most of their infrastructure still reliant on fossil fuels and fission reactors. A civilization that had barely touched its own star system. 20 seconds, Elsa's voice announced. "Commander," the sensor officer reported, "I'm detecting something. It's faint, but there are quantum field irregularities across the entire planetary surface. Almost like a network of some kind, but the energy signature is unlike anything in our database." Verk's primary heart rate accelerated. "Specify." "I can't, sir. It's as if the entire planet is wrapped in some kind of field that exists partially outside normal space-time. The mathematics don't." 10 seconds. Verk made a decision that would save his fleet. "All ships, emergency evasion protocol. Maximum burn, scatter formation, retreat to jump coordinates." "Sir," Thrain stared at him, "we outnumber them 300-2. Execute now." The Sovereign's wrath shuddered as its engines roared to life. Around them, The fleet began to move, confusion evident in their sluggish response. After all, they were being ordered to flee from a planet that couldn't even reach its own asteroid belt. 5 seconds. Faster, Verk commanded. 4, 3, 2. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Earth vanished. Not the planet itself, but the image of it. In its place appeared something that made Verk's blood freeze in all 3 of his circulatory systems. A perfect sphere, 20,000 kilometers in radius, composed entirely of what looked like solidified spacetime itself. The surface rippled with mathematical precision, each wave a solution to equations that the ship's computers couldn't even process. And from that sphere emerged things that Verk's mind struggled to categorize as ships. They were geometry given purpose, tesseracts that folded through dimensions his species couldn't perceive, Klein bottles that turned inside out through angles that didn't exist in normal space, Möbius strips of exotic matter that somehow occupied the same space as his vessels while existing entirely elsewhere. The closest one, if proximity had any meaning when dealing with objects that existed in more than 3 dimensions, aligned itself with the thunder of victory, a dreadnought that had reduced 6 alien civilizations to radioactive ash. There was no flash of weapons, no visible beam or projectile. The thunder of victory simply ceased to be. Not destroyed, not exploded. It was unmade at a fundamental level, every atom deconstructed back to quantum foam and dispersed across the local spacetime manifold. Time elapsed since warning, 2.3 seconds, Elsa's voice reported with the same calm tone. 299 vessels remaining. Another ship vanished, then 3 more, then a dozen simultaneously. "They're not shooting us," the tactical officer screamed. "They're editing us out of existence." Verk watched in horror as his invasion force, 2 centuries of military engineering, the pride of an empire that spanned 17 stars, was methodically erased from reality. Not defeated, not destroyed, but deleted like errors in a cosmic equation. The geometric entities moved with impossible speed and precision, their trajectories following paths through higher dimensions that made them appear to teleport. Each one approached a Zalthari vessel, and each vessel simply stopped existing. "Emergency jump," Verk ordered. "All ships immediate." "Jump drives are offline, sir," the engineering officer reported, all 4 of his hands shaking. "They're locked in some kind of stabilization field. We can't access higher dimensional space." Of course they couldn't. These humans, if that's what they still were, controlled the very fabric of spacetime itself. 15 seconds elapsed, 137 vessels remaining. Verk's mind raced. There had to be a way to fight back, to negotiate, to survive. The Empire had contingencies for every scenario, weapons that could crack planets, temporal disruptors that could. He stopped. "Temporal disruptors, time." "Dr. Marevik," he transmitted, his voice steady despite the terror coursing through him. "We surrender, complete and unconditional. Please stop this." The erasure paused. 112 ships remained of his 300. Elsa's voice returned. "Commander Verk, do you understand now why we asked you to leave?" "Yes," Verk whispered. "Humanity developed its first atomic weapon in 1945, Elsa continued, and Verk detected a deep weariness in her words. "We nearly destroyed ourselves with our own technology several times over the next century. We learned a hard lesson. The universe doesn't care about intention, only capability." On the viewport, the geometric constructs held position, patient as mathematical proofs. 70 years ago, we achieved a unified theory of quantum gravity. 50 years ago, we learned to manipulate the Planck scale itself. 30 years ago, we built the Morevik lattice, a planetary defense network that treats the laws of physics as negotiable. Verk's sensor officer was crying, moisture seeping from his optical organs. The Sovereign's wrath hung in space, surrounded by shapes that existed in geometries his species had barely theorized. "We didn't want this power," Elsa said quietly. "We built it because we looked at the galaxy and saw species like yours, conquerors, empires that spread through violence. We decided that if anyone was going to threaten Earth, they'd have to fight physics itself to do it." "Why warn us?" Verk asked. "Why give us time to retreat?" "Because we remember what it was like to be young and stupid, and think that military might was the same as being right," Elsa replied. "We gave you a chance to learn without dying. Most species don't get that opportunity." The geometric constructs began to fold back into higher dimensions, disappearing from normal space like nightmares at dawn. The sphere around Earth contracted, reality reasserting itself, until the blue marble hung peaceful and deceptive once more. "You have two choices, Commander," Elsa said. "You can jump away, return to your empire, and tell them that Earth is off limits, or you can try again and we'll finish what we started. But know this, every species that's attacked us in the last 50 years has made the same choice. We've never had to make an example of anyone twice." Verk looked at his remaining vessels. 112 ships, their crews traumatized, their captains awaiting his orders. "We're leaving," he transmitted, "and we won't return, you have my word." "Good," Elsa said, and Verk thought he heard relief in her voice. "Safe travels, Commander Verk. We hope your empire learns from this." The jump drives came back online. Within minutes, the Zalthari fleet was gone, scattering into warp space like frightened prey. Verk sat in his command chair for a long time afterward, staring at the star charts. Somewhere in that vast darkness was a blue world whose inhabitants had cracked the source code of reality itself, and who had chosen to use that godlike power for nothing more than being left alone. The truly terrifying civilizations, he realized, weren't the ones who conquered. They were the ones who didn't need to.